Ladies and gentlemen, today I have Mr. Billy Mickelson. How's it going, Billy?
Hello, good to be here.
So, for those who don't know, tell us about your projects that you're doing currently.
Projects currently.
Yeah.
So I'm a professional musician, a professional cellist. I travel all over performing, and right now there's no performances, which is really quite a challenge for a lot of career musicians. But I'm working on a lot of projects for film scoring, and I have a partner, my partner Colton Tyler Williams, and I are doing a lot of work, submitting a lot into film to try to just find other avenues, much like with what you're trying to utilize the internet, and I'm trying to figure out all these things too. So
Yeah, it's definitely a paradigm shift for a lot of people where they are using technology that's been around for a long time, really, but just realizing that it's something that we can use, it's a big shift.
hopefully we're using it for its best potential, not for evils.
Yeah, that's the challenge.
There's a lot of marketing surrounding it too, which is a strange thing.
A lot of what?
Marketing, just ad campaigns that are taking advantage of everybody on the internet that are watching the internet right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am interested in the film scoring aspect. Tell me more about that. Like, how have you done that? Is that something that you guys have been doing for quite a while, or is it just kind of a new idea for you?
Yeah, we've done quite a handful of films under our belts now. Some individually, and then when we joined forces, we've done a lot of really great things. And we're going to be launching our audio reel, like film reel, with all of our most professional scenes and clips and kind of footage that really stands for, proving that we take this seriously and we're going to do big things. So
awesome. Is that something that the public can see, or is that just?
It's not launched yet, but we're going to be having all the compiled footage into one film reel, and we're going to be releasing that and just really pushing it and sharing it all over the internet to get more work and get more reputation for Third Seven. And Colton Tyler Williams is kind of the moniker. Like we're a team, a partnership. So
cool. That is awesome. And as soon as that comes out, I will put that in the comments. I'll put the link to that in the comments below. So
that's awesome.
Everybody can check it out. I'll also link to your website as well. That's still up and running. I take it, third7.com or?
Third7.com.
There you go.
I wrote it down for you so you can read it, everybody, on the internet.
That's right. So what do you find when you go to third7.com?
Everything I've ever done in my entire career, including Larry and His Flask with Jamin Marshall.
That's right. Awesome.
Yeah, just every album for download. It's all donation based, and it's kind of my own net label.
Right on, man. Yeah, I know you've been working at that for many years.
Yeah.
So yeah, make sure to go to third7.com and donate all your money and get all of the things available. Download them all. So besides, like, have you been doing any streaming shows or anything like that? Have you been writing music?
Yeah, I've done a handful of those. It's definitely strange. This is the longest I've ever gone in my life, I think, without a show or without performing in a group of people, making new friends, making new connections, and just being human beings, in person. It's definitely strange to perform on the internet, but it's gone pretty well.
Good. Yeah, I imagine so. I mean, people they're hungry for any music and content, and everybody's sitting at home still. So,
yeah, I don't want to oversaturate.
A lot of us are.
I don't want to oversaturate it either, because a lot of people are, just sharing every day or every week their songs or whatever, and I want to make kind of my own spin on how to get music to people. I'm working on that, like videos and different things to release.
Cool. What was the last show that you played? Were you on tour when this shit went down, or?
Yeah, the whole tour canceled. But the last show I played was with your brother at Brownell in Bend.
Okay.
And it was right when they were starting to, like, everything was starting to cancel, and they were like, we still want to do this show, and yeah. So
Weird.
interesting how everything has canceled, and I know a lot of bands are feeling that stress.
Yeah, you know, it makes me feel like I just want to go to every show from now on, once they reopen.
Yeah, I mean, I've even thought about kind of doing guerrilla style, just putting some shows outdoors in a park or with some friends that are safely distanced or whatever, but to where we can have people coming together and actually having conversations still, because that's the part that's really strange, is nobody's talking right now, at least in person.
Yeah.
And the conversations, we need that. I need
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. And I never, I took it for granted, live shows, I guess, for a while. And we were getting back into it, and we went and saw Murder by Death a bunch when they came to Colorado here. And then I was in February. And then yeah, and then this shit happened. We were just like, okay, we're getting back into it. We'll go out and see music all the time as much as we can. And then this happened. I was like, oh, maybe not.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a strange period, but I think resilience and just humans can't stay like this forever. I don't think it's human, not human nature.
No, I mean, and in Colorado they have opened up almost everything again,
Nice.
which is good. And
Is there music yet, or
also
no?
scary. No, I think we're a long ways off of that from that. But the businesses, most of them have reopened, as far as I can tell. But Canada is keeping their border locked down, which is probably smart.
Wow.
Considering the amount of outbreak that's here. But anyway, yeah.
Is your mother's in Canada?
Yeah, BC. They're doing pretty good. It's, comparatively speaking, to the United States, it's relatively low still as far as deaths and the numbers go, but nobody really knows what the numbers truly are.
Exactly. The information is so, we can't just read everything and believe the statistics until it's proven through medical professionals.
Yeah, it's a clusterfuck. But so I like to talk about how you got started with music. Like, as a child, what was your first memories of playing music and deciding that this is something you wanted to pursue?
So I was always surrounded by music, classical music, kind of pushed into the classical realm, like playing piano, and I started playing violin when I was like 3, but it was like Suzuki violin. It was kind of just and I just remember having this feeling about music that I wanted more out of it, and I kind of rebelled and got a guitar, and the typical thing, got an electric guitar and started heavy metal bands, and got into a lot of diverse genres of music, and writing a lot of diverse genres of music as well. So I think I always knew I wanted to be a full-time musician, pretty much from the age of 6.
That is awesome. And I kind of knew some of that. I didn't know that you started playing violin so early.
I mean, it was just a 3-year-old kid,
yeah,
scratching on strings, but I remember the feeling of like holding an instrument and like creating just tones, creating sound that you're in control of, I guess. And I remember that feeling of like you could really take this, you know?
That's cool, man. Yeah. And then I also wanted to ask you if you could go like I know it's on your website, but maybe we can go through all the projects that you have been in. It's always fun to do because some musicians have been in a lot of things. I know you've done a lot of cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little prolific. It's I've been in so many bands and so many friendships that have collaborated on so many albums, and everything listed on my website is everything that I've recorded and I've um, been directly a part of. But there's endless amounts of material out there. But with 37.com, like it starts at the beginning. When I started 37 in 2002, it was just myself. It was just private. It wasn't something I ever thought I would be on stage or anything, but it was just something to write electronic beats or write music or ambience and express it on my own. And it kind of just developed into what it is now.
Yeah, that's amazing. I didn't think of it like that, but yeah, 2002. That is a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like Third Seven is almost 18 years old, and that's the longest running, you know, thing in my life that I've ever had. It's
Yeah.
it's a beautiful place to express myself, and I'm really grateful to have had that for all these years. Well
Yeah.
as all the other bands, collaborating with others is definitely a whole other level of fulfillment. You can't replicate that on your own, but it's nice to have like a safe zone for that music solo as well.
Yeah. Something that you have your own artistic control of that you
Yeah.
can do at any point go back to. So where did the name Third Seven come from? I believe it has something to a reference to Da Vinci. Is that correct? Or
Yeah, it does.
okay.
So Da Vinci was really fascinated with the number seven. It's kind of a spiritual number as biblically as well as mathematically, and there's a lot of sacred geometry stuff about that. But um, it's it's kind of a secret, but at the same time, I like people to have it open to interpretation. Like I like people to interpret it, so I don't like to kind of sway them on that. That they can make the music their own. They can make the music mean what they want it to mean. But to put it lightly, Third Seven is just kind of the experience that I feel while playing music. It's an out of body kind of third person experience. But
Cool. That have you ever had an out of body experience
I think so.
besides music?
Besides music, yes, but mainly with music. I mean, music is it's one of the only exercises that exercise the entire brain all at once, and that fascinates me. It's really incredible when you're feeling every part of your brain being triggered or electric current.
Stimulated. Yeah.
Nostalgia, emotions, science, math, all these different elements of the brain are going into music, and I think there's something to that. I think it's quite an exercise for the brain, and it definitely takes you away. Like it travels you beyond, and not to get sci-fi on it or anything, but you know what I mean.
Oh yeah.
It's a really peaceful experience.
Yeah. I think that everyone that's a music fan or a musician can understand.
Hmm.
Absolutely. It's something that's pretty universal. There are some people that don't experience music like that at all. I think they are the outliers though, you know. Some
Yeah,
people don't like music, and I don't know what that is exactly, but it's
could be childhood trauma. Maybe there was something
could be genetic.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. It's to each their own, but it's pretty um hard to imagine not liking music.
It is. It's. I don't think I could live a peaceful life without it. I just feel like it's the most comforting zone of existence. It just there's so much music out there, so many people sharing themselves, vulnerably through music that it's really powerful to experience that and to share that.
Absolutely. So, I also wanted to ask you about like a crazy touring story that might pop into your head, maybe like a really weird show or events that were very strange. I'm sure there's a few that pop into your mind.
There's an overwhelming amount of, I mean, this, Jamin, that touring is chaos and touring is every day is the unknown and you have to roll with the punches and it's really intense and really insane. I think one thing that just popped in my head when you said that is I was in Tennessee, pulled over, making a phone call in a kind of a gravel driveway, and turned my head while dialing the phone call, and a drunk driver lost control and launched out of a ditch and landed on top of my car and crushed everything but me. It was very miraculous,
And you were in the car?
I was in the car. And yeah, that was definitely shifted the whole concept of like, what is this tour going to be? But I did not miss a beat. I didn't cancel one show. I didn't.
So your equipment was crushed, or?
No, the equipment was fine too. So it was very miraculous. The only things that were crushed were the areas where there was nothing or no one. No passenger, no equipment. It was a really intense experience to just, it jolts you. I know you've had, nightmarish days on tour too, where you're like, how are we gonna bounce back from this? But you just put your intuition forward, and music means that much to me, to be that resilient and yeah.
The show must go on, as they say.
As they say, but that's what's strange about right now. The show must go on. We should be having people share music as much as possible right now.
Yeah, I agree. And luckily we have ways to do it where we don't have to get each other sick.
Right.
It's not the same. And I feel like it will be a whole new world when it does come back together. People will appreciate things, at least, for quite a while, I think, in a different way. But I know that feeling of like, about the car crash. When Greg and I slammed into that guardrail head on with his car, and the guardrail, the end of it was still attached, like the wooden post was still attached to the metal part. So it kind of came up out of the ground and whipped around and smashed in the back door.
I remember that, yeah.
So it smashed the front, but it didn't hit us. But if somebody was sitting back there, they would have been crushed.
It's the laws of physics are chaos, and we definitely forget sometimes how dangerous a car is. It's a humbling thing.
People think about disease, and they think about alcohol abuse and death, and all of these things. But automobile accidents are way up there, man. They not just it's not something that a touring musician likes to dwell on, but it's something that you do have to face and be aware of and be ready for in some way, because shit happens and you've got to be sort of ready for something.
I agree. The variables are like, I know the thousands upon millions of miles that you guys have driven on tour. The variables, your chances start to stack up where you're like, I'm in a lot of places at once. Anything can happen. I mean, anything can happen anywhere at any time, but you definitely run your chances up when you're driving along.
Yeah, when you're on the highway all the time and you're tired or hungover, you know, and then not to mention everybody else whipping by at like 70 miles an hour. You don't
Yeah.
know what state of mind they're in, or you know, or if a spider crawls across their lap, or what, you know, all these things that when you're exhausted and you're trying to sleep in the back of the van and you're just like, sweet Jesus, what am I doing?
Yeah.
There's times anyway, and then, you know, it's all worth it when you get to the venue and play. And then it's
Yeah.
like out of body experience.
Yeah. And the music stands for itself, you know. It rises above, and I used to say the music's bigger than me, you know. It's really important and meaningful that we share, and you know, in any avenue that we can. I know there is burnout. You know, you can overdo it. You can push too hard and run yourself thin. But
Yeah.
yeah,
I've done
music.
that a few times, and I do that in everything I do, to be honest.
Are you playing music
That's
right
the
now?
way I go. Is that what?
Are you playing music right now, Jim?
No, not really. I bang around on my drums. They're set up, and I have an electric kit as well, so I can, you know, jam to with the headphones, you know, so I can play with anybody.
Mm.
But yeah, I'm not. Other than that, not really. I mess around with my keyboard too. I've got a little Casio, so that's fun. And then Victoria's
Ooh,
learning the glockenspiel,
very cool.
Star Wars.
Um, well, you're an incredible songwriter, Jim, and I just yeah. So, some of my favorite songs of all time are songs you wrote. So just to throw that out
Well, thank you.
there.
Yeah, I have gone full circle, and then some in this last year and a half. You know, this part I probably will edit out because I'm kind of trying to keep it a mystery. But
Ah,
you know, like as far as the Flask stuff goes, but you know, it was very troublesome, trying times for me, and I lost my friendships with those guys that I have worked with and thought that I was the, you know, my closest friends. And you know, I haven't spoke with any of them except for Jesse in over a year
wow.
at all. So that sent me down this wormhole of like, I should go do something completely fucking different with my
Yeah,
life.
and you did.
And I did. And, you know, I got, you know, Davey, we went out to eat before I came back here. And he was like, so Les Schwab, huh? When I started there, he was like, well, you know, you think it's good for you now, but talk to me in a year about it. And I was like, fuck you, dude. This is what I'm doing. Like, it'll be great. And then now it's like a year later, and I'm like, I can't do that anymore. So
Okay.
it's like a building. It's a stepping stone to the next thing. But yeah, you know, I to be honest, I just needed to heal in my own way and do my own thing. And this is the last step in that. I feel that returning back to who I am, doing music again in some respect. Jesse and I have been talking about doing a project where we do like cool punk rock songs, and I record it here and he records it there, and we can put it together,
That's awesome.
stuff like that. So yeah, man, it's important, and I just had to embark on my own therapeutic mechanic mission. Some people deal with their stresses and emotional upheaval with meditation and, you know, yoga and enlightenment, and I went and lifted really heavy tires and learned how to do brake jobs.
Yeah, I mean, you've done a lot of. You're kind of a renaissance in that you've done a lot of jobs, and you have a lot of skill and a lot of talent. But I know that music is your core. Like, I mean, we all grew up together because of music and because of kind of that DIY punk rock attitude that, we built the punk rock metal scene in Central Oregon together, and
Yeah.
that stays inside of us. Like, it stays true inside of us, that I don't have any judgment that you needed to heal. I don't have any judgment that you needed to, like, meditate on your own healing. But I also know you enough to know that music is inside, and that's undeniable. Same with Jesse, same with Davey, same with even Greg.
Yeah.
We have it. We have that beautiful connection in common.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. And art is in you. So you got to express it. You can't stifle it. And I didn't remain inactive in it either this whole time, but it was just different avenues. It wasn't music, it was drawing and writing stories and stuff like that. So
To have those outlets, that's awesome. Yeah.
I think some people like us just have to. It's like a drive. It's that drive that drove us across the country back and forth in Europe and Canada a million times, and the same thing that's driving me to do this and talk about it. That's part of it. So
I'm really proud of you, Jamin. Like,
thanks, brother.
to put all this, because we have a global community that's really strong. That this is a perfect way to start getting everybody together on, like, check this band out, check this book out, check this movie out. Like, to really put art on the forefront of a podcast like this, that you already have a global community from touring your ass off, and
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's just really powerful.
Thank you. Yeah.
I would encourage you to just have shitloads of content, just constant interviews, constant conversation. And
yeah, that's what I'm gonna go for. And turn it into a podcast, and then when things start to get picked back up as far as shows, however long that takes, then I can, I'll have the equipment to go out and do field recordings, video, audio, and interviews at shows as well. It's like my new passion. So I'm really stoked to get better at it, learn all the programs better and make higher quality content. But for now,
excellent.
I'm just working with the basics, what I have available to me, and what's cheap and easy to get. So,
I mean, you can do a lot with very little, and I know that you and I know that from touring. Like, you make the best of what you got, and it keeps you going. It keeps you alive, and you're very resourceful in that. We all share that in common. I think that punk rock attitude of just like, you can't tell me I need the most expensive thing.
Yeah. Well, the DIY thing kind of has become, a catchphrase. Everybody says it now and uses it, but it wasn't that way when we were kids, really. And it wasn't easy to make, to help formulate a music scene out of nothing, other than just how we saw it on, our, I guess, bootleg videos and shit like that. And we would watch those and be like, okay, this is how they do it in LA in the 80s. So let's try this, But yeah, it feels really good to do something again like this and reconnect with everyone. And yeah, we do. We have a worldwide network of artists and musicians, and why not tap into that? And it's just a matter of reconnecting, and just really getting it out there. And that's what I want to do.
That's
one step
awesome.
at a time.
And that it's your passion, because you make a passion out of it. And, like the views and all that on YouTube, it ends up being this competition, or like some kind of popularity contest. But if you're passionate, none of that even matters. Like, you're just doing it. Like, you're just interviewing people, making the connections happen, and the rest is open source.
Yeah.
It's good news. It's really good news to know that you're doing this, and to know that you're just taking hold, of like, you know what, the internet's my oyster too.
Yeah. Well, I realized that, like I say, the first couple of weeks, I just kind of like, I had a job, but I wasn't really sure what was going to happen with it. So I sat around and I put together a Star Wars puzzle and watched TV. And then I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I'm not going back to work. They laid me off. And then I'm like, okay, well, I better do something else and watch fucking TV all day. I gotta make something better than that. And so I got to it. And well, at first I went down this, started like just Googling, like, how do you make money on the internet? Because wouldn't that be great if I didn't have to go to some job I didn't want to do and lift heavy things all day? If I could stay home and do something. So, online marketing and all of this stuff. And then eventually I came to like this realization that, like, hey, I've got hundreds of friends all over the world that would be willing to just talk with me, and they're all trapped in their house. So why not?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, keep the momentum. It's really great.
And then also I wanted to talk, we would be remiss to not speak of the first time that I ever went across the country was with you. And so
Yeah.
I think we should talk about that, because that was both harrowing and, mind altering. It opened up my eyes, and it was just really fucking hard.
Well, I mean, we had no. Okay, I guess to give the viewers some context, Damon and I decided we wanted to load up the car and leave Central Oregon, because that's what kids do. They leave home. They're like, screw you guys, I'm going to go find my dreams out there in the world. And we had a friend living in Minnesota that we were like, you know what, we're going to move to Minnesota. We're going to get jobs. We're going to just make a life there and like make a change. And we loaded my car in the most ridiculous way I think I've ever loaded a car. But we stacked everything on top with a tarp on top of it and tied it all down. No rooftop carrier, just a bunch of crap. And like filled to the brim, where my car was way overweight. And we drove across the country to Minnesota thinking we were going to live there.
And Greg was in there. We dropped him off in Kansas.
Yeah, we dropped off Greg. Greg was with us at first, and we dropped him in Kansas. But when we got to Minneapolis or Minnesota, we realized very quickly, like, this is not the zone. This is not the scene. And we're like, screw it. Let's just keep driving. So we traveled together for months, or like a month, I think.
Yeah, Bo was in Boston, so we went there.
Yeah.
And no offense to door-to-door meat salesmen, but that's what our friend's boyfriend was doing in Minnesota. So we were like, okay, we'll ride along and see if this is something that we can do. And I think that we were both like looking across at each other while he was doing it, and he would go up to the door, and there was a refrigerator unit in there or something in the van, and we rode along with him for a day. And then we were sharing this futon in their spare room one of those nights, and we were just like, what the fuck are we doing? Do you want to do this? And then meanwhile, they were yelling at each other downstairs. They were fighting, and we were just like, what the hell are we doing? And so what we thought we were going to do you remember that? We were like, we're going to go to Hawaii. We're going to go to the East Coast, and then we're going to somehow get on a boat at some point, and we're going to go to Hawaii. We'll or fly there, and then we'll pick pineapples or something. And Emily was like, you can't do that. And we're like, oh yeah? Why the hell not? And she's like, you can't just do that. How are you going to do that? And that's kind of that's a certain mindset people have. And we could have done it. We didn't, but we could have.
Well, we did a lot, though. I
We
mean,
did
we
a lot.
traveled all the way across the country, which was a very humbling experience. We had a lot of kind of intense experiences for our age to run into, and New York City, and like just the whole dynamic. We were maybe naive to know how to be quick on our toes traveling like that, but I think we learned quick, and it primed us for touring.
Yeah.
I think.
And instead of, whereas a lot of people would be like, I can't do that. You and I were both like, that is it. That's what we're doing. That's what we're going to spend forever doing now. And we just kind of decided that. I don't think we said that to each other, or I don't think it was like necessarily like something that we decided out loud, but it was in there. And I think that started the process. And then when we got home, we were just looking for the next time to go.
I think when we came out of that like month and a half of traveling together, I don't even remember. I think it was 2 months.
Yeah, it
So
was like the whole
out of
summer.
that, I think we both had an introspection of, wow, actually, I'm really good at this. Like, I'm really good at traveling easily. My comforts are like resilient. Like, I can sleep on a park bench in a rest area or something. Like it all comes really intuitively, and a lot of people probably don't have that instinct to just be able to sleep wherever or eat whatever, but we knew that we had that skill. It made touring very just nature.
Yeah, man, that was the first trip across the country, and for us small town boys, it was a big deal. And I also wanted to put it in perspective, time wise, because that was 2003
Right.
summer of. So
Yeah, summer 2003.
I think you had a cell phone, but it wasn't in service. It was just like an emergency type thing in the glove box. And then we had like, I had calling cards sometimes that I would call my parents with. We would use, back in the day, there was this thing called a phone booth, and it used to be at rest areas and gas stations, and you could actually put money in it and call people with it. And that's how we communicated with everybody back home. And it would be like maybe like weekly or so. And then and maps. That was another thing that used to exist, a paper map, and you would have to you were really good at maps too.
I am good with maps. There was a time when I was a kid I wanted to be a cartographer, actually, so maps definitely an interest.
That makes sense.
That's funny that you say that, though, because I've thought a lot about, I went years touring without a GPS at all, just paper maps, just getting MapQuest. Do you remember MapQuest?
Right. Yeah, we did the first few tours like that, and we would be like, it was like a thing of pride. Like, we can navigate across the country in any major city with a paper map, no problem. Except for the fact that it takes twice as long because you're like asking people on the side of the road, and they don't know or care where you go. Sometimes they're just like, yeah, I don't, get out of here. Like, go take a right. And that's totally wrong. But yeah, I mean, we, kids driving around New York City from the West Coast in a bus, like totally lost with a map and a payphone. And that's how we did it. And then now we think nowadays parents don't even let their kids go to school without their own cell phone.
It's wild.
Which, I mean, it's good to know where your child is, but back then it was like, well, call us once a month or something if you can find a quarter.
Yeah, which in some ways is really liberating, though, because it gives you this sense of introspection, or this sense of self-actualization that you can only get when you have this privacy. Like you have this, like, I don't know, those moments where you're less connected, like through a phone or whatever. It gives you more of this energy of like knowing who you love telepathically, and that it's stronger almost. I don't know. I remember when I was touring in the beginning, like I like you said, I would put my phone in my glove box and kind of forget about it a little bit. At least try to, because I don't like distraction. I like to like really take it in. I like to look at the landscapes and listen to good music, and um, you know, traveling and that sense of meditation, and you can't replicate that. But I remember that. Like I remember when we were just making calls on payphones to check in with our families and let them know that we're alive and that we love them, and like that. It's a really beautiful experience, actually. Like to have that limitation, I guess.
Yeah, it puts things in perspective, and the sense of freedom and the sense of danger is
Yeah,
actually really important. I feel like, you know, to realize that crazy things can happen, and you might just be a hair away from an amazing adventure, or, you know, a disaster perhaps, but it's on you, and no one else is going to save your ass. So you better tune in.
yeah.
You
I
know,
remember you and I, we were journaling together each day on that trip, and I remember we looked at each other and were like, our journals are getting overwhelming. Like there's so many experiences every day when you're traveling like that that you can't keep up. Like you can't keep writing and writing and writing and writing. Eventually you're just like I think I've read back on that journal once
yeah,
since, and it's all in my head,
yeah.
It's that's where you really take it in. It's in your own mind.
Yeah, I always wished that I had kept a journal in all the years of touring, but I never did, really, other than that first one and then some random bits and pieces. But
Mhm.
I feel like this is my journal to recount everything I've
Absolutely.
done. Because there are things that I don't remember that you remember, and vice versa, and everybody has that experience where they remember something stands out bright in their memory of an event, and somebody else will help fill it all the gaps in, you know.
hmm I have
um
a question.
yeah.
One when you just said that, one memory that really stood out that was really special. You and I were driving in Utah, I believe. It was like on the border of Utah and Colorado or somewhere thereabouts. And this sunset that we saw together, I've never experienced a sunset like that ever before and ever again. It was the most insane colors, and the rocks formations and the colors that were on the rocks, and like purples and greens and crazy colors. Um, where was that? I've never been able to find that place again.
That was definitely in Utah. um Yeah, I remember it. I remember that sunset vividly still too. I remember it having like almost a neon blue to it too, and it changed, like it was just brilliant colors, and not just like the usual pinks and reds and maybe kind of purple. It was like very contrasting, and it was just, I don't know, on the side of a, I remember it being like a freeway, kind of
Mhm.
bigger highway, and we pulled over on the side, and there was like, it was just, you know, rocky desert. So that
Yeah,
could
and
be anywhere in Utah.
I've looked, like I've traveled a lot through those areas, and I've thought, okay, where's the rest area where we pulled over and watched that sunset?
I
Can't
think it
find
was
it.
kind of on the side of the road,
Yeah, it must have been just a pullover, huh?
kind of a parking area, or I don't think it was like a rest area. I think it was more of just kind of the side of the road, but it was incredible.
It was like science fiction. It was the most amazing colors I think I've ever seen on planet Earth.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to like go there again, or like I guess we're revisiting it through memory through this conversation, but that definitely stood out as like a really special moment, a special bond. I think you and I experiencing that together.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds silly to be that remembering of a sunset, but it was a very particular sunset.
Yeah, yeah, it was. It was amazing. And I don't think it's silly at all. It's just you know, people like to front a lot about what's important and they don't really talk about the actual important shit, you know? You get carried away with pretending to be, say with guys, macho badass stuff, and you don't talk about the amazing sunset that you shared with your friend on the side of the road. But it's real, man. It's true. There's nothing wrong with that.
No.
It was there was a
And we
lot
had
of
so many
things like
memories,
that.
so many memories together, like growing up together. I was just actually thinking about all the coast trips that we used to do together when we would drive to the Oregon coast when we were just kids, and that was like a really exciting highlight. And in fact, I named Third Seven and philosophized the whole concept of what Third Seven is to be with our group of friends on a coast trip, one of those coast trips at the Oregon coast. And
Yeah, those were awesome.
it's just really beautiful that we all the support of family that we have in our group of friends, that it's eternal, like it's infinite, like there's no holding back from that anymore, like
Yeah.
or ever.
And
But
it's rare.
it is rare. It's a rare connection or bond of family. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel, and the Redmond High School, that those couple of years of graduates or people that went to school with us, is very, we've talked about this a little bit before, but it's very strange that so many musicians and extreme athletes and artists came out of that same high school. And I don't know if that's something that happens all over the country or all over the world, but it seems pretty unique in that way, that in those couple of years span, you have Ari DeLashment, you have Rachel Sidoris, and then you have like the guys in Larry and His Flask, and we, the bands and all of the different combinations of bands that happened, Jesse Martinez and
Colton Tyler Williams,
yeah,
as well.
and the Williams
He was in
brothers,
in that punk rock metal scene too. Yeah.
and I'm sure there's a lot more that I'm forgetting, but there were a lot of people that went on to do extreme stuff with their lives from those years of Redmond High School.
Yeah, it was special, and at the time we were just like, oh, this is what music scenes are supposed to be, and we know exactly what we're doing. But little do we know that a music scene die. Like a music scene can just get punished in a weird, hurtful way that falls apart.
And the Cronkmen. I should not forget the Cronkmen.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah.
Speece Brothers and Charlie and who else am I forgetting? I know there's more, but there's a lot of people that, a music scene can live and die in the space of just a couple of years. And to think of what Bend is now is so night and day to like think of how what it was when we were. If you wanted to go to see a concert in Bend in 1999,
yeah,
what there was hardly anything. There might have been like an amphitheater, or like Munchin Music maybe, but after 99, that's when like there were more and more punk rock shows, and then that idea of a punk rock do it yourself influenced everybody else that were that age group, in their teenage, early 20s, to do their own thing with that same DIY ethos, which is beautiful.
Yeah. And I think the integrity of what we built far as what the music scene meant to us, I think that still stands in Bend to a certain degree. But there was definitely, you know, a lot of things that shifted or changed with people trying to profit on it, or people trying to like puppet bands in Central Oregon. And that's the part that killed the music scene in a way. Like that's the part that made it some kind of popularity contest or battle of the bands. I remember when all that crap came in, and like it was like, what just happened to our music scene? And I think we have an opportunity to have it back, to like to own it as that integrity that we built it on in the first place. And Jesse, your brother, is the largest component of doing that. Like he's just motivated every day to keep that scene alive in
Yeah.
Central Oregon. I'm really proud of him for that.
Me too. And I'm proud to be part of it because just before this happened, I was doing all the posters for the Brown Owl that he was
Right.
promoting and putting together, doing the talent buying for that venue. And I was really happy to be part of that. But then, now we kind of got back together working as brothers again, like creatively. So that brought us back together, and now we've got all sorts of other ideas. So I'm going to, even though I'm here in Colorado, when it does come back together, I am going to be a big part of it as well, I hope, as much as I can from here. And also in Denver, in Boulder, and help my art, or help with my art, however I can. So,
well, you and I've witnessed so many music scenes across the world, that we understand how special that was, what we had when we were kids, and now we get to like live that legacy on into our adulthood, to share that music scene in Colorado, in Arizona, in Central Oregon and beyond. Like, and through your podcast, where you're able to share that, like encourage that and inspire that, and that's what it's all about. Like,
yeah.
I think we've all had enough of the middleman, right? The advertising, the buy this, register this. If you're not hip, if you don't have this app to do this thing, like really it just boils down to communication and conversation with a community and a music scene and an arts scene that is worldwide. And I know that that, like, through the humbling experience of touring. And
Yeah.
it's
That's
really great that you're doing this.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm glad that you joined me today. And yeah, I wanted to, like, the thought of putting yourself out there in a way that's that humbles you and exposes you to a world of adventure and things that you would have never thought even possible, and then to see the tremendous amount of kindness that can come because of that. Like, people see that you're out there, you're putting yourself out there, so they will put themselves out there and help. I wouldn't have been able to do any of it without the kindness of strangers. Like, to be honest, I touched on that with Roma Ransom a little bit, but it's very true. And it's worth reiterating that we couldn't have done what we did without that. Besides people coming to shows, there's a whole nother layer of traveling the way that we traveled, where it's very bare bones and very exposed to everything. You're not in a tour bus. You're usually not in a hotel room. It's not big venues. It's not very cushy most of the time. And people back home, they saw, for instance, with the Flask at first, when we went on tour with the Murphys and shit, it's like a very cutthroat kind of scene for a while there. And we got home and it felt good to have done those things. And then people started calling us sellouts and shit. And I was like, dude, I live in a van. I quite literally do not have a home, and I'm on food stamps right now. And you're calling me a sellout. That is the funniest thing I've ever heard. Like, what do you expect from musicians? Do you expect them to just be like monks and do, you know, I mean, what?
No, it's true, and there's this behind the scenes thing with, it's not a glamorous lifestyle
Yeah,
by any
that's what I was
means,
getting at. Yeah.
and it's kind of, you're either built for it or you're not. And I think anyone who calls somebody out or calls them a sellout like that probably has some jealousy, like probably has some insecurity within where they're thinking, God, I don't have the guts to go sleep in a van and and just share music because the world is that beautiful. I don't know how to. I don't have that bravery. I think I see it more of a projection. You know.
Yeah. It's half jealousy, half ignorance.
Yeah.
And if I thought of this example the other day, like if you're a carpenter and you work your entire life, or say even 10, 15 years, and you hone your craft and you work every day at it, you go to work and you build houses, say, and you work and you work and you're on your own, you're an independent contractor and you're doing your thing, and everybody appreciates what you do, and they're like, this is a great house. And then somebody comes along and they're like, we'll pay you double what you're making as an independent contractor. Come work for me. And you still do exactly the same job. You just work for me. Nobody is ever going to be like, you fucking sellout carpenter. You dick. Now you're making houses for that guy. Like, everybody's going to be like, that is what you're aiming for, right? Stability. He's offering you health care, all of these things.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
you're like, yeah, it's a carpenter building a house. And now he has more stability in his life. Now he can take care of his kids and everything. And then you look at a musician, and they're like, making maybe like another little chunk because they signed to a label, and everybody calls them a sellout. It's hilarious to me.
It's hilarious, but it's also really disheartening to know that we're all just trying to make a living. Like, we're just trying to stay alive, and music means this much to us that we made it our career, But there's no like levels of who's selling out and who's this or that. It boils down to the integrity of what your intentions are. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think that Larry and his Flask, the core spirit of what that band stood for, like, there's no possible way you can deny that strength, that independence, that DIY punk rock heart, and
Thanks, man.
it is funny, but it's also disheartening to know that people actually judge.
Well, at first I took it very seriously at first. Like, you people know me personally. Like, all of you assholes came to my house and drank my beer and partied in my house and fucked it up. And now you're calling me a sellout for like sleeping in a hotel once a month instead of in the van every night.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's nuts. But I laughed it off after a while. I was like, whatever, and then that passed. And I think that was the only time we ever had that moment, because then people would be like, these guys work really hard at what they do.
Yeah.
So,
and it is hard work, and I think that that's something when an audience can know the integrity of the hard work that a musician or a band does, that's the true connection. Like, that's where everything settles into place with making a change in the world. Like, when you're connected on work ethic and you're connected on that integrity, you're unstoppable. Sure, there's place for burnout when you push too hard and you become a workaholic, but I don't know. There's just something to that spirit that I know that we all grew up with that stands the test of time.
Yeah. I'm still working on balance.
Oh, always.
It's like I have two switches on and off. I'm trying to develop the dial in between that can slow me down a little bit, but
Yeah, I think there needs to be room for slowing down. I have a tendency of workaholic, being a workaholic too.
yeah.
But to slow down and like just realize you're not going to get there any faster. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, or you're not going to get the job done any faster.
Yeah, there's that whole factor too of trying to do it right,
Yep.
not necessarily just fast. And
yeah,
I just thought, at one point we made the mistake of saying that we'd play any show, anywhere, anytime, and our manager, booking agents took that very seriously. And then we were like, what the fuck is going on? Why are we playing 3 shows in one day? And they're like, well, you said anytime, anywhere, any show, we'll do it. And we're like, oh yeah, we did say that.
Well, and there's a period where that can work, but because I was doing that too for a while, where I was playing 3 to 4 shows a day, where you hit a wall, like you hit a brick wall of exhaustion. We're human beings. You need to sleep, you need to eat, you need to like actually rest, actually catch up on what rejuvenates your health. And when you're pushing that hard, it's inevitably going to burn out.
Yeah, beer is not sustenance. And I was like, well, is there beer there? Yeah, we'll do it. As long as there's beer there, we're good. and that didn't work out so great. Sometimes.
But you live, you learn, and you grow. Like, I think ultimately all of us as friends and as family, like we've said, have grown so much and grown together, and seen each other grow. And it's really special. It's really, like you said, it is a rare family to have.
Yeah. And I'm really glad that you're involved with Jesse, too.
Absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I play cello with Guardian of the Underdog with Joshua, and it's so sentimental to be on stage because Davey's in that band too, and when we're all on stage together, it's quite a force. Like all the power that is our childhood growing up together. It shows in the show. And you've played some shows with us actually playing drums.
Yeah, that was
really
awesome. I was going to bring that up. That was really cool.
That's a really sentimental show too, where we're exposing our entire course of growing up together on stage. Cool to know that we still can do that.
Yeah,
rock.
It is. And rock. Redmond High. Yeah, but man. What a trip.
How I was wondering, like, I love the podcasts that they don't put a limitation, they just talk. And I love watching those. Is that kind of what your goal is, to have conversation exposed?
Yeah, typically. I sometimes when it's somebody I don't know as well, I will come up with a very specific questions and then kind of navigate through those. But my experience with interview is more being interviewed. So I am going at it my own way, and I know what questions are, overdone. And at least in my experience, the ones that I always got asked, I try to stay away from. But there are some that are good to know, like everybody who is a musician or aspiring to be one, or just really interested in the subject matter, they really enjoy the process of creation. Like that's one thing that I was going to ask you is like, going from a concept to a finished song. I always like to ask that one, for example, because then, the music geeks can try it.
I mean, for me, it's a very disciplined process. I don't rush anything with songwriting. I don't half-ass anything. I'm very picky with lyrics. I'm very like it has to really stand out as an emotional uh, release or an emotional, what's the word I'm looking for? Like it has to be strong. And when I finish a piece that really stands out, that stands the test of time, think about it this way: if you get sick of playing a song after 6 months, let's say, of playing shows, it's not a very good song. If you love playing a song for years and years and years and years, and it's always true in your being, like in your message, that's a really good song. And like I have a handful of material under my belt now that I just really love, and it took that time of aging it like wine, like aging it in a really disciplined way, like really making sure it's it's not just some flighty song. Like you're not just writing something for the sake of writing a song. You're writing a song that actually has depth, and to me, that's just a really disciplined. I have to do that. I have to do it that way.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You go
Yeah,
for longevity, not just sugar coated shit.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's true with any art form. Like books or movies, or if it's just a quick attraction, like, oh, look at this new action thriller that all these explosions and stuff. Like, yeah, a lot of money went into that and a lot of time, but eventually, I mean, how often do you go back to some of those movies and watch them, whereas you go to a movie that actually means something to you,
Yeah.
that changed your life, or a book or a poem, or you know, I think that art should be humbled in that way, that you're not trying to get attention. You're not trying to get to gain popularity. You're just writing a song that is meaningful to you, and that's just always been a real mantra in my process.
Cool, man.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get too deep with it, but
No, that's awesome. That's great. And true.
I mean, there are a handful of Larry and his Flask songs that stay with me forever, and you know, like I said, a handful of my most favorite songs of all time are Larry and his Flask songs that you or Jesse wrote. And that's like a really endearing factor that it does stand the test of time, and it's very meaningful. That like the discipline that you put into poetry, Jamin, and that Jesse puts into poetry, it stands out. Like from those songs, just through those songs that people have record of.
Thank you. I've been accused of a lot of things, but a poet, I don't think I've ever been called. But no, I really do appreciate it, and it's something that I do uh, have in me, and that I would like to strive more towards. Actually, poetry, writing, um, writing short stories as well. That's something that it's on the long list of to dos.
Yeah. Uh, and you and your brother have this genetic gift of all of your heart goes into what you do. And I just that adrenaline is inspiring. Like, I mean, we know this of Jesse. He's a go-getter, man. He does not quit. He does not give up easy, and I'm so proud to have a friend like that in my life that inspires that resiliency. And
Yeah,
um, and both of you,
yeah.
you guys, when you went to the Virgin Islands, and you were, like you said, you were kind of healing and going for a change of pace, or like a change in your life. You that really, it resonated with me, like that you wanted a place of of healing or of healthy sunshine, and like just a total different environment, from Central Oregon. And that you're like, I'm going for it. I'm just gonna live on this island for a while and be and find peace in this. I saw it in you, and I saw like a big growth of that healing that you referred to. Like you really took to that work, and you, yeah. It inspires me, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Thanks, man. Yeah, there's times where it's just like, it's strange, but the way that I'm wired is like, okay, this is what we're doing now. And it could be like at the drop of a hat, we're packing up everything and we're moving to Canada, or, whatever needs to be done, we're going to do it. And of course, there's moments where I'm like, I don't know shit about this, whatever it is, I don't know what to do. And then if you just stick with it, you'll learn. Hopefully life is long. And in those long years, you can spend a year or two here or here, and you can get really good at sailing or driving or playing music or climbing mountains or painting or or all of them.
Yeah.
And, I don't think that I'm flighty, but there are a lot of different things that I've done, and that's because somebody will suggest something and I'll be like, okay, let's do it. And then I go full on, like, now you're a sailor. And I'm like, got there, I didn't know anything about boats except for that they float on a good day. And that was it. And then, a couple years later, I know how to drive the big catamarans and sail and the dinghies and maintenance and all that stuff, which is applicable later in life to other things,
Yeah, and you take to those challenges in that inspiring way that I was referring to, because I have this tendency, music's it. Like, there is no plan B. I've been a full-time musician now for 12 plus years, and that's so it's where we place our passion that really counts. And you have this ability to place that passion into a learning curve where you're like, sailing, that's something I've always been interested in. I'm gonna dive in and try to learn it, and be humbled in the process. And that's really inspiring. Like, I've never taken to lately I've been watching a lot of scientists podcasts, or like kind of physicists, and kind of looking into the laws of physics more, and looking into engineering, the engineering world of that we live in. And I've had this thought of like, well, I guess it couldn't be too late to like dive into a science career, but I don't want it. Like, music is still it. Like, music still wins the prize of like, I love music always.
Yeah.
And
I don't think there's anything wrong with having a very passionate hobby or side thing that you research all the time.
right.
That could be science or engineering, or both. And it isn't too late ever, I
No.
mean, I'm proof of that. I've changed my career path so many times now. If you wanted to call it that, that's what adults say. But I didn't think of it as a career. I just thought of it as like, okay, now I do this.
You're
And
living.
I almost became a captain. I was close.
Wow.
And then we moved to Canada, and then we never went back to St. Thomas because of the hurricanes.
Yeah, that was awful. I think that really made its mark on your decision of like, all right, that wiped a lot of things out.
Oh, absolutely.
That news.
I mean, not even the logistics of getting back there was impossible at that time.
Yeah.
Everything was destroyed. There was no flights
Seriously.
in. The only thing that we could have done was like drive all the way across the country to Florida, and then maybe, if we were very lucky, hire a boat to take us there.
Mm-hmm.
But we didn't, we didn't own the house there. So, it wasn't a matter of getting back to secure your possessions, and what was in a couple of like tubbies under the house was like my board shorts and flip flops and a couple of knickknacks and some books, and it all just, and Jesse's bass that was under the bed, which I got back to him after
You got
about
it back?
a year.
Yeah.
Destroyed, but he got it back.
Well, we should restore it and make have a story to tell. And that's something I wanted to just conclude on for what this means to me, that you're doing this and that you're making these conversations exposed, is we're all prophets and we all have a story to tell. Like, that's the inspiration that's going to make the change, not the marketing campaign or the advertising campaign that sells you the next product. Conversation and the stories that each of us as individuals have to tell. That's what really stands out to me the most. And I think that that's where the revolution starts. Like, that's where we keep to the integrity of true morality. Because if it's all about profit, if it's all about money, we're not going to make it very far. I mean, just look at Rome. Look at all the examples in history. That type of greed doesn't sustain. It doesn't get you anywhere. And so, like, this is really endearing to know that one of my best friends in the whole world is like opening a global conversation, and that's what needs to happen. And if I can help in any way with the project that you're doing, like editing, we can all collectively join forces and like make a really quality mission.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree completely, and that's what we're gonna do.
Yeah.
And just sharing each other's work, that's an amazing ability that we have because of the internet, and we can mostly do it for free. Like, so I can promote you, you promote me, and so on and so forth, and we can just subscribe to each other's videos and share them with as many people as we can, and that will get people interested. And when they can, they will hopefully purchase the art that we put out.
Yeah.
That's the dream behind the whole content thing.
Farm to table, right?
Yeah. This is the farm. That is the table.
Exactly.
Thank you, Billy.
Thank you, man.
Thank you so much for being on my show.
Thank you for having a show,
Mr.
Jamin.
Billy Mickelson, Third Seven.
Thanks a lot, Jamin.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too, man. Take care.
All right. Bye.